This is Whole Backstage Live, and you're listening to our 13 Days of Halloween, taken from Kathryn Tucker Windham's 13 Alabama Ghosts and Jeffrey. This first compilation of Alabama ghost stories brings you famous ghosts and locations from throughout the mid to late 1800s, shadows of the unrest which plagued the South during the Civil War. You can still visit some of these locations even to this day. Others have long since been reclaimed by the earth and trees and creeping vines. 13 individual readers will share with you these stories of love lost, unbearable tragedy, unsettled ghostly apparitions, and untimely death. Look for a new episode daily until October 31st. Find out why the spirit of Evelyn Carter lingers in The Unquiet Ghost at Gaineswood.
It is an accepted axiom which has persisted from the time of Homer to this day that no ghost can rest quietly until his body has been given proper burial. Those unfortunates who have not been interred with the necessary rites are doomed to haunt the earth until their remains are put into their graves with their due ceremony. Gaineswood, the great house built in Demopolis by General Nathan B. Whitfield in 1842, has been haunted by such a restless ghost. General Whitfield began the building of his home in 1842, and when it was completed, it was the showplace of Alabama. His friend, George Strother Gaines, the Choctaw Indian factor, had lived on the site, and General Whitfield decided that it was most fitting for the mansion to be named for him. No ghost could have found a more beautiful house to haunt than this neoclassic mansion with its 12 great Doric columns on the portico, in pleasing contrast with the more elaborate Corinthian drawing room and the priceless Chippendale furniture throughout the house. Soon after Gaineswood was completed, Miss Whitfield died, leaving several small children, and the general found it necessary to employ a housekeeper. He was fortunate enough to find an efficient and attractive young woman, a Miss Carter, whose father was in Europe serving as consul to Greece at the time. Miss Carter's relatives lived in Virginia, far away from the Marengo County town of Demopolis, and despite her duties as housekeeper for the large mansion and as companion for the children, she was often lonely. General Whitfield was aware of her loneliness, so being a kind and thoughtful man, he was pleased for her to invite her sister Evelyn to come to Gaineswood to spend the winter with her. Evelyn was an excellent musician and loved to play the piano. The general was also an accomplished musician, and he encouraged Evelyn to perform. He particularly liked for her to play the martial tunes of Scotland, and on occasion he would bring out his bagpipes to play duets. Together they created stirring, rousing music that filled the spacious rooms of Gaineswood and spilled over into the countryside. Evelyn's presence at Gaineswood brought happiness and cheer to the entire family. In spite of a winter of severe weather, the coldest Alabama had experienced in many, many years, life at Gaineswood was pleasant until Evelyn became sick. Although General Whitfield provided the best medical care available, after several weeks of illness, she died. Nobody remembers exactly what it was that brought about her death. Some say she had a severe attack of malaria, others contend that it was pneumonia, and it has been rumored that she pined away because of a disappointment in love. There was a handsome young French count. He had come to Demopolis to visit his relatives among the Napoleonic exiles who settled there, who often visited Gaineswood. He appeared to be quite interested in Evelyn. It is said that he even bought an engagement ring for her, but they quarreled and he snatched the ring, hurled it into the shrubbery, and left never to return. Evelyn's decline was attributed to the grief following this unfortunate love affair. Whatever the cause, Evelyn died. Because the roads were covered with ice and snow, it was impossible to have her body carried to Virginia as she had requested. Besides, it would take time for her father to return from Greece, and one of her final wishes was that he be present for her funeral. It was decided, therefore, that her burial should be postponed until spring so that her last wishes could be fulfilled. In those days, there were no embalmers anywhere near Gaineswood. To preserve her body, Evelyn's casket was placed in a heavy pine box which was sealed airtight with rosin. This box was stored under the stairs in the cellar until good weather and the return of Evelyn's father would make it possible to have a proper funeral in her own family's Virginia burying ground. As it is true of all ghosts, the one thing Evelyn wanted most was to be buried so that she could rest peacefully in her own grave. She did not like being sealed in that box and kept in the cold, dark cellar. Soon after her death, people in the house began hearing footsteps coming up the stairs from the cellar. Then they would hear the sound of tiptoes going into the drawing room where the big square piano stood. After that, faint sounds of music would float out into the hall and up the stairs to the bedrooms. Many of the tunes were those of the staunch Scottish ballads that Evelyn used to play, but the plaintive, homesick melodies of Stephen Foster were heard too. These mournful sounds distressed the listeners, for they reminded them that Evelyn was unhappy. On the occasion when the braver members of the household would creep downstairs to investigate the source of the disturbing sounds, the music would stop abruptly. But as soon as they returned upstairs, the sad melodies would begin again. Those recurring footsteps and the eerie music so interrupted the sleep of the family that they were greatly relieved when the weather moderated and Evelyn's body could be taken to Virginia for burial. But if the family at Gaineswood thought Evelyn's burial in Virginia would bring a complete halt to the nighttime visitations, they were mistaken. Evidently, Evelyn could not forgive them for keeping her so long under the stairs in the cellar. While her midnight wanderings were not so frequent as they had been, she did continue to return to Gaineswood occasionally. People who have spent the night at Gaineswood in recent years insist that their dreams have been interrupted by the sound of soft footsteps on the cellar stairs and by the lilting, tinkling melodies of half-forgotten songs of long ago. And they are sure that the ghost of Evelyn Carter returns to protest her exile in the sealed pine box beneath the cellar stairs at Gaineswood.
You have been listening to Whole Backstage Live and our 13 Days of Halloween. This tale of the ghost at Gaineswood has been told by Kristen Gillen. Tune in tomorrow for another Alabama ghost story. This has been a production of the Whole Backstage Inc. and Whole Backstage Live on WBSL Radio. Please, please, please take the time to visit our website and check the show description for a link to all of our social media. Follow us for upcoming events and announcements about what you can look forward to on our production calendar. Contact this show at wholebackstagelive@gmail.com for sponsorship opportunities. Imagine your name reaching all of our listeners through our episodes. I know, crazy, right? Thank you for listening, keep coming back, and stay kind.